when you're inside a space where you've planted things you care deeply about and you've made home, and a young child is witness to this.
When you build a home, fill it with love, raise children, and let the world believe in your fairy tale. You never expect silence to become your loudest weapon. But for Nicole Kidman, that silence is exactly what turned a private heartbreak into one of Hollywood's most talked-about mysteries. When Nicole Kidman filed for divorce from Keith Urban after nearly 2 decades together, the entertainment world froze. The couple that once defined elegance, stability, and devotion had finally shattered. But insiders whisper that the real story isn't the split. It's everything that led to it. And the two women standing quietly beside her, ready to shift the entire narrative. Meryl Streep, Laura Dern.
To sum it up, she is a true leader, and a leader in support of women.
Two names that could hold the keys to the truth. So what really happened behind closed doors? Every great Hollywood story starts with a moment that feels almost too perfect to be real. And for Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, that moment came under the warm lights of a January evening in 2005.
So I'm going to speak to a little bit about a particular view I get of Nick for a long time now. But I'll start with the fact that we met in January 2005. We were being honored at this event called G'day LA, which sounds a bit like a pickup line from Crocodile Dundee.
They weren't just two stars crossing paths at a glitzy gala. They were two souls meeting at exactly the right time. Nicole had already conquered Hollywood, an Oscar winner, a global icon, and a woman who had weathered heartbreak under the spotlight. Keith was the charming country singer from Australia, the one with a southern drawl, soft manners, and a reputation for pouring his heart into his music. The event was G'day LA, a celebration of Australian talent in Los Angeles. But to fans looking back now, it almost feels like fate set the stage. Nicole later admitted that something about Keith's quiet confidence drew her in instantly.
And my husband's always saying, take care of yourself.
He wasn't chasing her spotlight. He wasn't intimidated by it either. He simply walked up, introduced himself, and made her laugh. Within months, whispers started to spread through both Hollywood and Nashville. Nicole and Keith were inseparable. They were photographed side by side at events, sneaking glances on red carpets, and caught holding hands like teenagers falling in love for the first time. By June 2006, their love story reached its cinematic peak. In a private ceremony in Sydney, surrounded by family and close friends, they exchanged vows by candlelight. The images were breathtaking. Nicole in a soft ivory gown, Keith with tears in his eyes. The kind of wedding that looked straight out of a classic romance film. Headlines around the world called it a match made in heaven. For fans, it wasn't just another celebrity couple. It was a symbol. Nicole represented grace and resilience. Keith embodied sincerity and passion. Together, they seemed unshakable. Proof that love could exist even under the harshest spotlight. Their early years together only amplified that image. They supported each other's careers, appeared at award shows hand in hand, and gave interviews that felt genuine, not scripted. Nicole often spoke about Keith as her anchor. Keith called her his muse. They didn't flaunt their relationship, they nurtured it quietly. In a world where most celebrity romances burned out fast, theirs felt timeless. But what fans didn't know was that even the most perfect love stories can hold silent fractures. And sometimes, those fractures don't appear overnight. They grow slowly, almost invisibly beneath the surface. Because fairy tales are beautiful, until real life starts to rewrite the script. At first, everything about Nicole and Keith's marriage looked flawless. The wedding headlines faded, but the fairy tale image only grew stronger. They became the couple everyone pointed to. Elegant, grounded, private. In interviews, they spoke about family, love, and balance as if they had unlocked some secret Hollywood couldn't touch. But behind the perfectly lit red carpets and polished magazine spreads, life was moving faster than either of them expected. Fame isn't just about the spotlight. It's about the constant motion that comes with it. Nicole's acting career was entering another golden era. She was flying across the globe from set to set, taking on ambitious roles that demanded every ounce of her focus. London, Paris, Sydney, New York. Her passport was filling up faster than ever. Keith, meanwhile, was building his own empire in country music. His touring schedule kept him tied to Nashville and the road, surrounded by bandmates, producers, and fans. His world was thriving, but it was rooted somewhere very different from hers. In the beginning, the distance felt manageable. They scheduled visits, called constantly, made the most of every quiet moment together. But over time, those moments grew shorter, the calls less frequent, and the visits more complicated. According to one insider, they loved each other deeply, but their worlds stopped overlapping. It wasn't about a lack of love. It was about two powerful careers moving on separate tracks, never quite crossing at the same station. Publicly, nothing seemed amiss. They still smiled at events, still held hands for the cameras, still spoke warmly about each other. But insiders began to notice small shifts, the kind that don't make headlines, but speak volumes to those paying attention. Fewer joint appearances, more solo interviews, Keith spending longer stretches in Nashville, Nicole extending filming schedules overseas. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't explosive, it was quiet. And sometimes, that quiet can be more dangerous than any public fight. Because cracks don't always show up as shouts or slammed doors. Sometimes, they're whispered in missed dinners, unanswered calls, and the growing space between two people who were once inseparable. What started as two people chasing their dreams slowly became two people living parallel lives. And that's where the real trouble began. When distance creeps into a relationship, it rarely knocks loudly at the door. It slips in quietly. One late-night call missed, one flight delayed, one promise postponed. And for Nicole and Keith, those quiet moments started piling up, brick by brick, until the foundation they'd built began to shift. Nicole, ever the anchor, tried to hold their world together. Between filming major projects across continents, she made sure their daughters had stability. She would wrap a shoot, board a plane, and fly halfway across the world just to be home in time for family dinners or school events. To the outside world, it looked effortless, the glamorous actress balancing career and motherhood. But behind closed doors, it was exhausting. Meanwhile, Keith's focus was drifting in a different direction. Sources close to the couple say he wasn't just away because of work. He was searching for something within himself. Long stretches on tour turned into solo trips. Studio sessions became longer. Finding himself was the phrase insiders kept using. The emotional distance grew, even if neither of them said it out loud. Conversations that used to be full of laughter became shorter, more practical. Messages turned into updates. And in those quiet spaces between words, something intangible started to fade. Then came the moment that changed everything. Earlier this year, Keith reportedly packed his bags and moved out of their shared home, telling Nicole he needed space to focus on his music. To outsiders, it might have sounded like a temporary break, but to Nicole it was a blow she didn't see coming. According to one close confidant, Nicole said through tears, "I didn't see it coming. Not like this." After nearly 2 decades of building a life together, the man she stood beside through every red carpet and every quiet night had suddenly stepped away. And yet, even in heartbreak, Nicole remained composed. She didn't lash out publicly. She didn't feed the tabloids. She focused on her daughters, her work, and the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, things could still be repaired. But what the world saw, the calm smiles, the graceful appearances, was only the surface. Behind the scenes, a quiet storm was forming, not of scandal but of strategy. Because as their emotional drift became undeniable, Nicole's closest allies were already stepping into place, preparing for what came next. When life begins to crack, the people who step into the silence often say more than the ones who speak. For Nicole Kidman, that quiet strength came from 2 unexpected, but deeply trusted allies, Meryl Streep and Dern. To the public, they were just co-stars on HBO's Big Little Lies. But to Nicole, they became something far more personal. Sisters, confidants, and protectors. Their bond wasn't built on red carpets or Hollywood politics. It was forged between scenes, in late-night conversations, and through shared experiences of heartbreak, resilience, and survival. During the final months of Nicole's marriage, multiple outlets reported that Meryl and Laura became her emotional anchors. When the world started whispering, they were the ones who listened. When Nicole began to question what was happening behind closed doors, they gave her something invaluable: perspective. One alleged insider claimed that it was Meryl who gave Nicole the most critical piece of advice. Stay silent. Let him talk first. It wasn't about submission. It was about control. Control over narrative, timing, and emotion. In an industry where headlines can destroy legacies overnight, silence can be a weapon sharper than any statement. And Nicole understood that perfectly. Fans began noticing subtle signs of this sisterhood's presence. Meryl was photographed wearing a long silver scarf, eerily similar to one Nicole wore years earlier at a film premiere. It wasn't loud, but it was noticed. The internet went wild, calling it a symbol of solidarity. Meanwhile, Laura began liking several of Nicole's old Instagram posts, specifically the ones showing tender moments between Nicole and her daughters. For casual observers, it seemed random, but to those who know Hollywood's language, it was a clear message. We stand with her. Their friendship wasn't performative. It was strategic, powerful, and rooted in loyalty. Meryl, the Hollywood matriarch whose words can shake industries. Laura, the calm but unwavering ally who's walked through her own storms. Together, they formed a protective wall around Nicole, emotionally, socially, and silently. And their support would soon turn this personal heartbreak into something bigger, a story of quiet power. Because while tabloids searched for explosive drama, Nicole's inner circle was preparing a very different kind of response, one built not on scandal but on strength. And that quiet sisterhood? It was about to change everything. When powerful couples separate, it's never just about what happens inside the home. It's about the whispers that escape into the world outside. And in Nashville, Keith Urban's home turf, those whispers began to take on a life of their own. Not long after Keith reportedly moved out, rumors started swirling about his closeness to another woman allegedly connected to his music circle. No names were confirmed, no evidence surfaced, and nothing was proven. But in Hollywood and Nashville, truth isn't always what shapes the story. Perception does. For Nicole, the rumors cut deep. Insiders say she was hurt, not just by what was being said, but by how quickly the gossip spread. Yet even then, she didn't fight back publicly. She didn't issue statements. She didn't take the bait. She stayed silent, calm, composed, and that silence spoke volumes. While Nicole was retreating inward, focusing on her daughters and her work, Keith was doing something very different. Days after the divorce filing became public, he was photographed laughing with friends at local bars, smiling for selfies with fans, and performing at events as if nothing had changed. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. Nicole, serene, quiet, almost ethereal in her stillness. Keith, visible, lively, seemingly unbothered. The internet noticed. And once the internet notices, narratives take shape fast. Reddit threads began dissecting every public appearance. TikTok users created timelines, analyzing interviews, gestures, even outfits. Gossip pages filled their feeds with side-by-side photos. Nicole's composed red carpet appearances versus Keith's easy smiles at concerts. One viral comment captured the public mood perfectly. Nicole's silence is her loudest performance yet. And that's exactly what it felt like. Every time she appeared in public, calm, radiant, saying nothing, the world leaned in a little closer. Every pause felt like a message. Every quiet smile felt like a headline without words. Meanwhile, speculation kept growing. Was Keith moving on too quickly? Were the whispers about someone new true or just convenient tabloid fuel? Nobody knew for sure. But the unanswered questions became part of the story itself. Because in Hollywood, silence doesn't kill rumors, it feeds them. And behind that composed exterior, Nicole's inner circle was already thinking several moves ahead. This wasn't just about surviving gossip. It was about controlling the narrative. And as the speculation reached a fever pitch, something even more powerful was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. While the world dissected every photo, every rumor, every subtle change in body language, Nicole Kidman was doing something far more powerful. She was rebuilding. Not loudly, not through interviews or statements, but quietly, strategically, and with a calm grace that made people lean in closer. Her inner circle, Meryl Streep, Laura Dern, and her sister Antonia, became her protective wall. Friends say they rallied around her in ways few outsiders will ever truly see. Late-night talks, emotional check-ins, gentle reminders of her strength when headlines tried to reduce her story to gossip. But this wasn't just about healing a broken heart. According to insiders, Nicole was also laying the groundwork for something bigger, a rebirth. In the months following the divorce filing, her public appearances took on a new energy. Gone was the image of a woman retreating. Instead, Nicole appeared at events radiant, glowing in soft tones, with a quiet confidence that didn't need to say a word. Paparazzi shots showed her smiling serenely, holding her daughter's hands, stepping into premieres as though nothing could touch her. It wasn't performative, it was intentional. Entertainment reporters began to notice the shift. Some claimed that Meryl and Laura were helping Nicole channel her pain into creative fuel. Whispers spread that a new project was being developed quietly behind the scenes. One centered on strong women rediscovering their voices after betrayal. If the rumors are true, this wouldn't just be another film for Nicole. It would be a statement. A reminder that she doesn't need to fight through tabloids when she can tell a story on her own terms. And that's the power of silence. While others rush to explain, Nicole simply creates. Her allies played their parts too. Meryl, with her legendary gravitas, stood beside Nicole at events. No big speeches, just presence. Laura, known for her quiet strength, reportedly gave Nicole advice drawn from her own painful past. Don't react. Let success tell your side of the story. And that's exactly what Nicole did. She didn't retaliate against rumors. She didn't chase narratives. She became the narrative. Every public appearance felt like a chess move. Every smile like a quiet checkmate. And slowly the gossip that once defined her divorce began to lose oxygen, replaced by a new story. Nicole Kidman, composed, radiant, untouchable. But perhaps the biggest twist wasn't the way she handled the present. It was what her closest friends might still be holding back about the past. Because if whispers are true, the real shock hasn't even surfaced yet. Every story has a turning point. That moment when whispers threaten to become something more. And for Nicole Kidman's divorce, that moment may be closer than anyone realizes. For months, the public has watched in fascination as Nicole maintained her composure. Meryl stood gracefully by her side, and Laura offered unwavering support. But behind that polished exterior, insiders claim there's something else. Something that hasn't been spoken about publicly. Yet, several gossip insiders have hinted at the existence of private messages, heated exchanges, and personal accounts that could completely flip the public perception of this breakup. These aren't tabloid fabrications. These are the kinds of receipts that, if ever revealed, could rewrite everything people think they know about what really happened behind closed doors. Nothing has leaked. Not a single screenshot. Not a single text. And that's what makes it even more intriguing. Because in Hollywood, explosive secrets don't always get dropped immediately. Sometimes, they're held close, like an ace up the sleeve, saved for the moment when they'll have the greatest impact. And if anyone understands the power of timing, it's Meryl Streep. Industry watchers have pointed out that if Meryl ever chose to make even the slightest comment, not a tell-all, not a headline-grabbing interview, but a single, well-placed sentence, it could send shockwaves through Hollywood. She wouldn't even have to say Keith's name. Something as simple as, "Women should never carry the weight of someone else's mistakes," and the world would know exactly who she was referring to. Laura Dern, too, carries her own quiet influence. Known for using her roles and words with precision, fans have speculated that even a subtle reference to betrayal in a future interview or film could be a message in disguise. And that's what makes this story so gripping. The power isn't in the gossip itself. It's in the silence surrounding it. In a world where headlines change by the hour, this trio, Nicole, Meryl, and Laura, have managed to control the one thing that matters most: the narrative. They've kept the public guessing, waiting, wondering. Will these alleged messages ever surface? Will someone close to the situation decide to speak? Or will the truth remain tucked away, known only to a select few, whispered in circles but never confirmed? For now, the answer is a mystery. But one thing is clear: if that silence ever breaks, it won't just be a headline. It'll be a seismic shift, because in Hollywood, whoever controls the story controls everything. And right now, Nicole and her inner circle hold all the cards. In Hollywood, power isn't always about who speaks the loudest. Sometimes it belongs to those who say the least, and say it at exactly the right moment. Nicole Kidman, Meryl Streep, and Laura Dern. 3 women, 3 forces. Together, they've crafted one of the most fascinating real-life narratives Hollywood has seen in years. Not through press conferences or public feuds, but through control, loyalty, and silence. Nicole's grace became the story's emotional anchor. While the world speculated, she walked through it all with calm composure, never letting a single headline dictate her worth. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Each appearance, each smile, each unspoken word kept the public guessing, leaning in closer with every passing week. Meryl Streep brought quiet influence. She didn't need to say much. Her presence alone was a statement. A scarf here, a subtle interview line there, every gesture carried weight. Her voice is powerful enough to reshape narratives with a single sentence, and everyone knows it. And then there's Laura Dern. Steady, loyal, a woman who's lived her own version of heartbreak and come out stronger. She offered Nicole something even more valuable than publicity: perspective. Her quiet support gave Nicole room to breathe, rebuild, and regain control on her own terms. Together, they formed a triangle of power that turned whispers into curiosity, heartbreak into elegance, and silence into a weapon sharper than any tabloid headline. Meanwhile, whispers suggest Keith Urban may try to tell his side of the story through his music. A heartbreak album, lyrics laced with emotion, maybe even hints that only the closest followers would recognize. But many believe it might already be too late. Nicole's dignified silence has made her the hero of this narrative. And if Meryl or Laura ever decide to break their silence, even subtly, the balance of sympathy could shift even further in Nicole's favor. Because this was never just a breakup. This was a battle of storytelling. And in Hollywood, whoever controls the story controls everything. So what happens next? Will Meryl drop that one perfectly timed line in her next interview? Will Laura weave a quiet reference into a future role? Or will Nicole simply keep rising, letting her silence echo louder than any explanation? No matter how it unfolds, one thing is certain. This triangle of loyalty and quiet strength has turned a private heartbreak into one of Hollywood's most captivating sagas. And that's the real beauty of this story. It's not about scandal. It's about power. The kind that doesn't need to shout. Because sometimes, the loudest voice in the room is the one holding all the truths in silence.